Once upon a time, in a small village in Nigeria, there lived a beautiful woman named Ezinne. She was kind and had a good heart, but she was also very poor. Ezinne dreamed of a better life, where she had enough money to take care of herself and help others in need. One day, a wealthy and mysterious man from a faraway city arrived in Ezinne's village. His name was Emeka, and he was immediately taken by Ezinne's beauty and grace. Emeka asked Ezinne to marry him and promised her a life of luxury and riches beyond her wildest dreams. Ezinne was overjoyed and eagerly accepted his proposal. After a grand wedding celebration, Emeka took his new bride back to his lavish home in the city. Ezinne was amazed by her opulent surroundings. She had servants to wait on her, the finest clothes and jewelry, and more delicious food than she could ever eat. It seemed Ezinne's dreams had finally come true. But after some time, Ezinne started to notice strange things. Emeka would disappear for long periods, and he forbid her from ever entering his private chambers. Ezinne grew increasingly curious. One day, while Emeka was away, she snuck into his room. There she made a shocking and horrifying discovery. In Emeka's room, Ezinne found an incredible treasure trove, piles of gold, jewels and money beyond imagination. But next to the riches was a repulsive sight. Piles and piles of Emeka's feces filled the room with a putrid stench, and on the wall was a sign with unthinkable instructions. For Ezinne to keep her newfound wealth and luxurious lifestyle, she would have to consume Emeka's excrement every day. If she failed to do so even once, she would lose everything and be returned to a life of poverty. Ezinne was filled with shock and revulsion. She couldn't believe the man she loved would make such a disgusting and degrading demand. Her stomach turned at the thought of having to eat Emeka's feces. But as she looked around at her cushy surroundings and remembered the painful sting of an empty belly, Ezinne was faced with an impossible choice. Would she abandon her morals and swallow her dignity along with Emeka's excrement in order to maintain her lavish lifestyle? Or would she leave behind the riches and return to a life of simplicity but freedom? Ezinne closed her eyes as tears streamed down her face, overwhelmed by the gravity of her dilemma. Ezinne felt torn and confused. Part of her wanted to run away from Emeka's house that very moment and never look back. The thought of consuming her husband's waste each day filled her with horror and disgust. She couldn't imagine degrading herself in such a vile manner. But another part of Ezinne hesitated. For the first time in her life, she was free from the daily struggle of poverty and hunger. She remembered how it felt to go to bed with an aching, empty belly, night after night. The luxuries and comforts surrounding her now were like something from a dream. Could she really turn her back on this life of plenty and return to one of hardship? Ezinne knew she had to make a choice. She thought of her poor family back in the village and how the money could help them. But she also thought about what her dear mother had always taught her, that no amount of money was worth sacrificing one's integrity and self-respect. Ezinne's mother had been a proud woman who always held her head high no matter how little they had. What would she think if she knew the shameful acts Ezinne was considering? Suddenly, Ezinne heard Emeka returning home. She hurried out of his room, her head spinning. Over the next few days, Ezinne wrestled with the decision in front of her. She barely ate or slept, sick with anxiety. Finally, one morning, Ezinne came to a resolution. She packed a small bag with a few simple belongings, took off her fancy clothes and jewels, and left a note for Emeka. With a heavy heart but a clear conscience, she snuck out of his house and began the long journey back to her village. Ezinne arrived home weary and penniless, but with her dignity intact. Her family embraced her with love and joy, happy to have her back. Ezinne was surprised to notice that the village no longer seemed as gloomy and hopeless as she remembered. With time, she began to appreciate the simple blessings and joys of life again, the laughter of children playing, the smell of her mother's cooking, the feel of clean dirt beneath her bare feet. Ezinne realized that real happiness comes from the love in our hearts, not the possessions we own. She knew she had made the right choice. Though life was far from easy, Ezinne felt a sense of peace and freedom now that she was true to herself. And she began to dream of a brighter future again, but this time one she would build honestly with her own two hands and the support of those who truly cared for her. Ezinne smiled, filled with hope. Though the road ahead was uncertain, she knew that with courage and integrity, she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the years passed, Ezinne worked diligently to build a new life for herself in the village. She started a small farm, growing vegetables and raising chickens. It was hard work, but Ezinne found joy and purpose in coaxing life from the earth and providing for herself honestly. Slowly but surely, her farm began to thrive. Ezinne sold her vegetables and eggs at the market, and her reputation grew as an honest, hard-working young woman. She used some of her earnings to help her aging parents and struggling neighbors, never forgetting the importance of kindness and generosity. One market day, a young man named Chidi approached Ezinne's stall. He was immediately drawn to her bright smile and warm spirit. Chidi began finding reasons to visit Ezinne, and soon the two fell in love. Unlike Emeka, Chidi was caring, selfless, and treated Ezinne with the utmost respect. Chidi and Ezinne were married in a simple but joyous ceremony, surrounded by their loved ones. They continued to work side by side, growing their farm and their love. In time, they were blessed with children of their own, who they raised with the values of hard work, integrity, and compassion. Ezinne never regretted her decision to leave Emeka's ill-gotten wealth behind. She understood now that a life of riches and luxury built on cruelty and exploitation would have poisoned her soul. Instead, through her own efforts and the support of her husband, family, and community, Ezinne created a life of profound contentment, meaning, and love. And so, even in times of hardship or scarcity, Ezinne and her family knew they had everything they needed. For they had discovered the true treasures of life, the ones that reside not in gold and finery, but in the resilience of the human spirit and the unbreakable bonds of love and family. Though Ezinne's story had once been touched by darkness, it had bloomed into one of hope, redemption, and inspiration. Her journey stood as a reminder that no matter how difficult our circumstances, we always have the power to choose the path of light and integrity. And in doing so, we open ourselves to a world of possibilities as endless as the brilliant Nigerian sky. As Ezinne watched her children play and dance in the golden light of the setting sun, her heart swelled with gratitude and joy. She knew that her story was still being written, and that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with courage, wisdom, and an open heart.